Because what we've not mentioned is that Lucian is, of course, Lucian Freud, the iconic British painter, and the gravitas of the passing away of such an important painter.
I knew that he was an artist and that, he was Sigmund Freud's grandson, and kind of, he was kind of like, maybe he could help out or something occasionally. And so I sort of thought, what's going on here? But at that time, I didn't see it as, from an adult's point of view or a man's point of view. I was just a child that was kind of thought, what's wrong with me? Why?
Did you want to go and see your father? Did you ever ask for that? Or
no, I never approached the subject with my mother.
Because you felt it was a taboo subject?
Yeah, kind of. I didn't want to upset her. I was at school once and I heard someone shout out the name Lucian, and my response was to sort of like go into town or something, and on the off chance that that was my father come to kind of look for me, and I'd be not there.
And you were hopeful to see him?
Well, what I did was I went into town so that if it was so that I could maybe partly so that I could hold on to the to the maybe the myth that I'd made for myself that he's come to look for me. The name Freud is all over the place on the kind of from Sigmund to Emma, Clement, Matthew. The list is endless, yeah, and sure. Bella and Esther. I'm sure I've left millions out, but the name is kind of always there. I started work, I did really well, sort of became the boss and set up my own companies, and I hadn't called myself Freud, and that was something nice. It was sort of like I'm a kid from the council estate, made good, and I haven't used my father's name, sort of thing. I was the first of my mother's children to meet Lucian after our long break. So
how was that brought about? Who instigated that?
I think Bella or Esther called and said, Lucian would like to see you. We met in Mark's club, he sort of wanted a meeting. I think it was kind of midnight or something. We spoke about justice, and I don't know how we got on to justice, but we spoke about lots of different things. Kind of, he said there's a reason for everything. When I was sort of saying, I don't know, I had trouble with a girlfriend or something, and said, why something had happened. He said, well, there is a reason for everything, and it wasn't particularly deep and meaningful. It wasn't like sometimes a cigar might be just a cigar, but there is still a reason for everything.
Yeah. But it's quite an unusual topic for a first meeting.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Lucian does sort of, light-hearted. He's very, very kind of, when you're sitting in front of him, he gives you 100% of his attention, looks very closely at every detail, listens to every word, and pauses for an inordinate amount of time before responding. So you will say something and you'll be wondering when he's going to respond, but he's ticking over, and he just doesn't want to say something fatuous or ill-considered.
So was the conversation flowy because of that, or did it have awkward moments?
Didn't have awkward moments, no. I mean, I didn't feel like he wanted to be somewhere else, or that or that he was stuck for something to say, and that we didn't have a lot to say. And I felt like I was gaining a father, and that I was rather interested in this strange old bird.
So when you met, it was not in the same way as meeting a father, but meeting somebody that you feel you ought to have known, but it wasn't fatherly.
I felt that I was that we were two adults meeting, sort of. So I did feel, with a lot of, with work, that there was a relationship was available, but neither of us put the work in. And I was happy to be busy, and he was happy to be busy.
Life just continued.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still, at the end was this, the same as at the beginning. I think it was simple, as simple and as easy to cope with the emotions I have, having not sort of engaged or raged at my father, or sort of had a kind of father-son or I'm proud of you son kind of relationship. It's as easy as as the traditional, or as hard as the traditional one. It's the traditional way of doing a father-son relationship.
So he had Frank Orbach paintings around him. Interestingly, not his own paintings.
Yeah.
Well, why do you think he wanted those around him?
Well, Frank Orbach was a friend, a good close friend of his, and I don't think Lucien liked to live, or he used to say that he felt he couldn't live with his own paintings, and he could obviously live with Frank Orbach. So
sure.
He was eating some cherries, or I was trying to persuade him to eat some of the cherries, and he was having difficulty because his jaw was clicking. And one of the images, which is the square oil painting, quite a large one, he's reaching towards the viewer. It was sort of inspired by him reaching towards the cherries, really. But I liked, when I was painting it, it was nice to sort of feel that he was reaching towards me, and he's kind of reaching towards the viewer. He didn't actually do that in reality. It was wish fulfillment, perhaps. I think it's one of those things in art that it works without there isn't a verbal kind of comparison, and it's the action is out of shot. You don't see the hand, just him sitting up, and the effort to sit up and then reaching towards the viewer, and the hand being out of shot is just adds to the painting. And I don't know what it means in words, but it means something in the picture. I remember with that actually using white and burnt sienna, and sort of just naturally took white and burnt sienna, and being so shocked by how like flesh it is. But it's one of the things I don't, I've not been taught painting. And one of the great pleasures, the great joys, is discovering these things that everyone else knows.
Yes.
But, so the second one, I didn't use. I thought, gosh, this is fantastic. Maybe I can choose some other things. The flesh hasn't succeeded quite as well as that first one, where I just did. Sure. My obvious choice was. I could see this was going to be kind of flesh, but I thought, I wonder what other things work. But of course, nothing. It's only white and burnt sienna that is going to give it that realism. But well, it wasn't Lucien's death that started the series of paintings. I was sort of in the middle of trying to produce a show when I heard from my half-sister Esther that Lucien had been given weeks or months to live, and I went to see him immediately, and immediately on returning to my studio I painted a painting of Lucien sort of naked on his deathbed. The series of paintings you were going to get was going to be regarding frailty and fragility, and eventually became
the show that it's become.
And we spoke about doing a series of verdure paintings. It developed since then we've explored various different themes, and events took over when Lucien died. I'm excited about the future. I'm sort of delighted by the way I can sort of see myself getting better with each painting that I do. I almost feel like the way that I haven't painted in the past is an asset to me now, because that the input and the sort of excitement and the not knowing is fresh in the paintings that I do. So, and
probably drives you as well. It makes you want to explore more to get that exciting.
I mean, frustration is something nice as a theme, but as part of the process, I'd rather have, I like to overcome things, and I think the fact that I haven't, I'm not stuck. I just see the future as painting and kind of
developing
really excited,
your style.
Sure. and I'm probably more excited than the viewer about what's going to come next.
Sure.
It will be something that's worth doing.
Sure. Well, it's been really, really interesting to speak with you just now, and thank you for sharing so much of what's clearly been quite a period of time in your life, and I wish you well in your future and the work that you go on to do, and obviously encourage everybody to see the works that are available while they're on display, and of course we'll watch out for you as you develop in the future.
Thank you, Aidan.
Okay, thank you.